Well, let's talk to Chip about this disastrous bill that I'm sure will be used against you, me, and everyone else, but everyone can pretend like it's fighting anti-Semitism today. Joining me now, Congressman Chip Roy from the great state of Texas. Chip, you're one of the few, once again, who voted against this pile of crap. Why'd you vote against it, Chip? Do you hate Jews?
Jesse, look, this is the thing, and let's back up for a minute. We ended up in this stupid political cul-de-sac because Republican so-called leadership chose to. That's what happened, right? Back up and rewind the clock 10 days ago. I had to vote against a massive foreign aid funding bill because, as you know, and as your listeners and viewers know, it was funding Ukraine for a missionless war when we don't have our own border secure. It was funding Israel, which I generally support doing and has supported doing in the past, but it was unpaid for, but importantly had $9 billion for Hamas and refugees. We'll come back to that in a minute. But I had to vote against that. So I had to spend the last week going and explaining to my dear friends, my Jewish constituents, a lot of my Christian constituents who are very pro-Israel, why did I vote against Israel? Because the geniuses of the Republican leadership put us in that position by putting a bad bill forward. So fast forward, they did it again. They put a bill on the floor that didn't go through Judiciary Committee, didn't get a chance to amend it, didn't have a hearing. Then in so doing, labeling an anti-Semitism bill, they got everybody spun up that this was really important to go win the arguments in this craziness on the college campuses. And then they jammed it through, and it had a reference to an international organization's definition of anti-Semitism, which then included an entire laundry list of examples, which are another way of saying thought police. And yes, I know the Trump administration adopted it in a some State Department thing, and some states have adopted it. But that doesn't mean I should adopt it. It doesn't mean I should codify it as a member of Congress. And frankly, we should review it. We shouldn't do thought police crap. Why do we play the games of the Democrat? Go kick them in the junk, kick their butts, and take our country back instead of playing their game.
Can you explain, because obviously I'm dead set against it, but there is all kinds of information and misinformation, people love that word today, out there about it. You're the one in Congress. You voted no. What's in it? What does it actually do? What do we have here?
Okay. The bill's purpose is to define anti-Semitism, to attach to as a rule of construction, so that when the Department of Education, the bureaucrats at the Department of Education, are going out to apply the Civil Rights Act, Title VI of the Civil Rights Act, to apply it to the funds that go to universities to make sure they're not discriminating, which of course in the past historically is generally designed since 1964 to apply to race. Obviously there are other groups that it applies to, but you start raising very serious constitutional questions on both free speech, but also expression of religion and your religious views. Those things are getting targeted because you've got this laundry list of examples that go into historical context, things that you say, things you might do. And it's a whole list of things you can do or think and say that will get you in trouble as being anti-Semitic. Now, look, I looked at the list. If you looked at the list, you would agree most of that stuff is horrific, stupid crap to say. But when you start getting into empowering the federal government, bureaucrats, to go come in and say that because you said these things or thought these things, that somehow then your actions, which might be horrific actions, that somehow is something they get to determine is driven by anti-Semitism, that to me is where you're getting afoul of things. We should do what Ben Sass did in the University of Florida, what Jay Hartzell, the president of the University of Texas, did, which said, knock this crap off. You're not going to have encampments. You're not going to block people's access to schools. If you violate our rules, you're going to be kicked out of the university. You won't be able to graduate, and knock it all off. You can go give your free speech crap and say your weird pro-Palestinian, anti-Israel crap over there and say it all you want. But you're not going to jam everything up, and you're not going to hurt anybody. You're not going to attack anybody. That's what you do. You don't need the federal government coming in and dropping a stupid bill that's going to then create thought crimes, hate crimes, and create thought police for the entire country.
What does this empower the federal government to do when it obviously passes? Everyone and their brother knows this thing's sailing right through. Are we talking about the FBI showing up at my door if I wake up tomorrow morning and decide I hate Jews all of a sudden and I start spouting out a bunch of stupid stuff? Do I have to worry about the Federal Bureau of Investigation coming to visit me? What does it do?
So Let me start with what I would say is the good news. Like, to the extent that you think this is not that big of a deal, and some of my colleagues are arguing that, including the Speaker of the House and some of my colleagues in the Senate who are looking at it now, they would say that this is narrowly focused on just the Department of Education, Title VI of the Civil Rights Act. So all they can do is apply this and this definition of anti-Semitism to the activities and the organizations on campuses and students on campuses, that if they do any of the things that are problematic, that would be viewed as targeting our Jewish friends and doing it in a certain way, that this list of examples, they would say that's anti-Semitic, that could all be factored in to what the remedies are through the Civil Rights Act to go after university dollars and the organizations and groups on campus. But everything flows from that. Once we, Congress, accept the premise that we're going to put the government into thinking thoughts, views that are backing up whatever your illegal actions are. Now, again, do you trust any bureaucrat at the Department of Education for them to maybe work with law enforcement community if they need to go carry out the Civil Rights Act, to then expand it to this laundry list of examples? Again, say what you and I promise, I want to speak for you, horrified at what some people are saying and doing about our friends in Israel, siding with the Palestinians. It's nonsense. But frankly, this tiny little group of radicals, you don't go remake your constitutional order to address this tiny little group of radicals. You take this tiny little group of radicals, you kick them in the ass, you get them off your campus, other than if they follow the rules to get engaged in their crazy rhetoric. But what you don't do is have the thought police come in and tell you that what you say can make you then suddenly be whatever the government deems is wrong. Once you've done that, you've given power to the people you should never give power to.
Chip, these animals that take to the streets every couple years, whether it's Antifa or Black Lives Matter, now they're all pretending to be Hamas lovers or whatever, it's all the same group of dirty commie dorks. As you well know, you and I have talked about this. They're funded, they're organized, they're paid to do what they do, which is cause civil unrest in our country. So why can't we have a GOP that attacks the source of that? Who's financing it? Who's organizing it? I don't care if some English major on the quad gets pepper sprayed. In fact, I think it's hilarious, Chip, but that's not the actual source of our issues. We have people, including international people in other countries like China, funding and organizing this crap. Does anyone in the GOP want to go after that?
No, it's worse than that, Jesse. Many in the GOP want to actually help fund it by giving more money to the United Nations.
Of course.
Or by giving money, for example, last week to go to Hamas and to fund the refugees and the Palestinians to come over to our country. The Republican leadership is so ass backwards, you can't possibly put it into words. They're generally speaking too stupid to breathe, much less vote, much less lead the Republican Party. So here's the deal. We have to change that. We have to change that. We started to last year. We made some serious changes. We actually forced some constraint on spending and caps. We passed a non-amnesty actual border security bill. We actually passed the national defense bill that undid a lot of the woke crap. We were cooking with peanut oil, and we got a little off track for a variety of reasons. Now they've reverted to the mean, right, which is stupid. They want to put bills on the floor for political purposes so they can go win. They need to get power so they can do all the good things that they never do when they have power. So there's a large block of us that are saying, hell no, we're done. We're going to keep proving the emperor has no clothes. We're going to lay it bare. We're going to vote against their crap. We're going to expose it to the people, and we're winning. It's just maybe not fast enough yet. I said it to our friend Glenn Beck earlier this morning. You're sitting on the Titanic, the iceberg's in front of us. We're turning the wheel. It ain't turning fast enough because we got people on our own team pulling the wheel in the other direction. So we've got to get in with enough force to yank that wheel over so we can save the country.